Hello and welcome to the Gestalt podcast. Today's episode will be about the freelance business or the system that we could build that will help us to grow our business, to scale it, to make sure that it works out. It contains of 3 steps. That's a lead generation machine. This is how you acquire your customers. Then the sales talk, where you actually close the deal. You talk with the people and make sure that your values match so you can deliver and they buy from you. And the last step of this system is delivery routines, how you fine-tune them and how these routines help you to over-deliver and have some energy to make something unique, maybe to incorporate your identity in. My name is Nick. I'm a software developer. Together with Marius, I run this podcast, and we talk about 2 successful digital creators, explicitly about psychology, philosophy, and other things that we faced during our careers.
Hi, my name is Marius. I'm a trained psychologist working as a designer who runs an agency with offices in Munich and Berlin and likes to discuss these topics together with Nick.
Since we are both freelancers and creators, what I would like to talk today about is about the system that both of us for sure have to actually make our freelance businesses or your agency successful. What I mean by the system is these 3 steps that for sure we have both of us. First step is lead generation flow. So somehow customers comes to you. Maybe it's a word of mouth marketing. Maybe you do some other advertising on some channels, but some way the people find you, the companies find you. Okay. That's what I mean by lead generation. The second, what we both do is this sales talk. So you probably, when a company comes, you talk to them, what you can offer to them, what you did. You probably refer to some previous projects. This is what I mean by sales talks that you need to learn and you need to make for sure. And last thing in this system is this delivery machine or delivery approach. In your agency, you for sure have some way how you do it. You probably document something up front and talk to your team and delegate work here and there. And, you have this approach how your team handles every project for sure, right? So the same from my side, if I do mentoring, this is my side hustle. I also have the lead generation way. So people come and find me and try to approach me for mentoring. Then I have these intro discussions with them, whether they qualify, whether they know what they will get in favor to make a sale at the end. And then I have the last step, the system that I just mentor them in a way that is polished, fine-tuned, so they get the most outcomes out of every session that we do together. Okay?
Okay.
So this kind of thing I wanted to talk to you. So today is a kind of business day, let's say, for us.
Good. Business topic.
Sounds good. Yeah. And I'm just sure that every freelancer needs to work this out within his or her career, because these steps just helps you to set up a repeatable way how to get clients, how to make sure that they stay with you, and how to then deliver for them the result that you planned, that you agreed with the client. And I think sooner you come to understanding how this works, sooner you can scale, you could extend, you could finally make some reasonable money as a freelancer, I would say, okay? Or as an agency, like in your case at the moment. So maybe my question first would be like, how can you came to this lead generation step? I'm sure that most of your clients are coming through word of mouth, because I never seen any advertisement for you. So it's very organically for you probably, or through the partners of yours, probably partners could recommend you. How does it work in your setup?
Nice to talk about this. I think we've known each other for a while now, and I think it's a very important step, because when we started working or doing this work, it was still very early. So there were not so many agencies, not so many platforms where you could also share your work. It's been a while, like a few years. And what is very important for me that the way that we talk, for example, we talk to our clients, is very authentic. So the way that you would see us, we talk now or we do projects, there's sometimes also divide, like you would see an ad for a company or you would want to buy a product. There's a lot of promises in the ads or in the video. Then you buy the product and then you realize they don't really promise what they did, or they don't deliver what they promised. And I really don't want to do that. It was very important to me because also if I buy a product, I would like to get what I order. So like you said, it's mostly word of mouth. We don't do any ads. And the reason why I told the backstory is because back then, most of those people we met online. So we've shared our work. And I think that's a very important part of the circle, that you find time to do the work that you really like. Because I think it's also key to figuring out what your business is about. It's very easy that you can start like offering AI services, social media services, because you think it's a hype at the moment. But the question really is if you want to do that work. Because if there is a client, you will then have to pull through the project, deliver. We'll have days where it's maybe also a bit tough to do the work. So first, I think it's really important to figure out what you want to do. And then maybe you don't have clients in the beginning, which is normal. They will not just come without knowing you. And put out the work that you do. Like it's going to be for free, but you're going to learn a lot. And I think this experimentation phase is also important later on when you have freelance business like yours or a team like ours. So I think that's a very first important step to realize that, to figure something out that you like and then just put it out there. Like do a lot of work, experiment. A lot of new AI opportunities at the moment. A lot of new startups maybe can be built or products. So that's, I think, the best ads you can do. Doesn't cost you any money.
Yeah.
And you can share it that way.
I think this also changes the game, how they will perceive you, how people will perceive you, how companies will perceive you later on. Because if you really do a freelance business based on what you really like to do, enjoy to do, then somehow through some even other communication channel than just word of mouth or so, when they see you, they will feel the energy that that's the right person for that job, you know? They will see that you are passionate about your craft. They will see it, you know? So that's a big differentiator. I believe that if you become an entrepreneur and try to sell something that is not yours, there is this known statement like eat your dog's food or something like that. That means actually, are you really building what you like, what you use, what this fits you, you know? And I think from different perspective, it will be very beneficial for both parts of the relationship. So a kind of winner for that. So it's really good that you told this point, because I think we both build out our freelance careers this way. We try to figure out who we are, ourselves, what fits us, what we like to do, where are we best, and this all accumulated together into growing the skill, into becoming an expert, into doing marketing naturally. I also don't do any advertisement, like I don't buy any ads, I don't promote anywhere in magazines or wherever my niche people are. Somehow I naturally talk about things online when I educate people with my posts on LinkedIn or so, and this is already a big promotion. You know?
Yeah, really nice. And I think also the best, of course, maybe other people will give you other advice, but I think from a natural growth, this is really the best way to do it. I think it's a really nice thing also, beside the business topic we talk about personally, to figure out what you like to do. And it's such a good time now. Like there are so many tools where you can learn, educate yourself online. You can just open ChatGPT or any other tool you like, figure out the topics. Will take some discipline, but it's very good. Like you figure out what you like and being open about it and share it. There is this quote from Johnny Ive that he put into the Apple product design book. It's a huge book. I'll share the link later so you guys can take a look. And that quote, I think, really tells that story that we just talked about. So be authentic and find something that you like. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Then the acquisition of the customers becomes more easier. And but look, we are already advanced at the level. You have an agency, you have connections, you have partners. You went through all them. You are known within the circle of people who will buy from you and continue to do that. And can we return back to the place where we were not known? We were just starting up and try to perceive what we did then. And from my perspective, what I feel like whenever I met a new customer and somebody who came to me from you, for example, or from anyone who referred me back then. What I try to do, I try to perceive these customers as human who talk to me. And so, in a sense that I want to build here a relationship in a way that this will become my customer for a long time, you know?
Yeah.
Therefore, I tried my best to learn at the job to make sure that I over-deliver, always over-deliver, you know? And obviously try to polish and fine-tune my communication skill. Because I remember back then that we took every our project as the most important project of our life, you know? Remember,
Yeah.
you jump on, I don't know, Microsoft or designing this desktop cover wallpaper, or
Yeah.
you were on IDEO 100, for example, project. You really put everything that you can into. And this is, I think, what is important at the beginning. When you don't have many people coming in, you know, like now, you probably have some people that will continue with you working further and continue throughout the years, and the same I have. But back then, my message here is that whenever you receive a project, good or bad, super paid or not super paid, you put all your effort into upskilling yourself, into over-delivering for that client, and fine-tune your communication skills in favor. They want to buy you again. They want to work with you again. And I think this is not just over-delivering. You could be just doing some work and then over-deliver. I think this is building a relationship. You really talk to people and they like how you communicate with them. They start liking, they start trusting you, you know, and then they choose you second time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's so nice you say this, and we shared this time together even better. I really enjoyed this time. So I think it's really like compared to a restaurant, you know, like you maybe have some of these restaurants where we come back to and you go in and you feel like this is a place where I can stay. I feel comfortable. You get to know the person. It's kind of a friend. And you know, you come in, they already know what you want to order. You feel very comfortable. You talk about some friends and family, and it feels amazing. Like, I think that's something I realized while traveling, especially staying in the States, China, all the countries I've been to. It was amazing to feel this welcoming environment. And from those people, I really learned that I also want to deliver work like this. And it's so nice because, I mean, on this point, thanks to everybody who's working with us over the last 15 years. I'm totally thankful, because without a few people, we would not be here. So thanks. And I think most of the people I can call friends or partners. And I think that's a very important thing for me. Like, we will probably not just do a website and say, okay, here we did a little website. You maybe don't like the style that we have or the work that we do, but we just do it for you. I would probably not really take any of those projects. But it's very important to get to know the person. And the nice thing is, if you put out more work from yourself, people can get to know you. Maybe you have videos like we do it now. They see, okay, this is Nick, this is Marius. That's the way they do things. That's the style that they have. That's the way they code. That's the way they do trainings. And that's really important for me, because that's why I like to take also this time to update our websites. We do talks like these, and people can see who you are and see if that works. You can also get to know them. And I think that's a really important part of that finding clients. And then, like you said, even if it's a small project, I really don't mind, because if you figure it out, this is the work that you want to do.
Yeah.
Like, you feel good about this job, you don't mind, because you're super happy. There is a project you can do, you can work on. And that's great. So I like to put this unreasonable service into any kind of project. It's kind of like running a nice restaurant. That's, I think, the goal that I have. Yeah. And that's something I appreciate about you too, because I feel like the work we've done together, it feels like you share that passion. And I guess also for your team, where you are now for your trainings.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear how you see it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I kind of build relationship with people. I believe that, look what I believe. I always believed, Marius, that if I build relationship with people, not just deliver pure work and then goodbye or so, whenever they change, they will change the companies. They will become important persons in other companies and other foundations. They will ask me to come in, you know? And somehow this skill, or I don't know, ability that I developed throughout the years, it helps a lot. So whenever I quit a job, I quit a company, I leave outside somewhere, I don't stop communicating with these people, you know? they are still in my circles. I sometimes write to them, I communicate, and you could see this with you. We maintain that throughout the years, and with other many people, I actually maintain this throughout the years.
Nice.
And I still discuss with them things, do something sometimes, and so forth. And throughout the years, they become serious, important persons.
Yeah.
They can hire people now. They have a role now. And they know me.
Yeah.
And this is strong.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
in comparison, where I have seen that many people, when they stop the job, they just stop everything. That's it. I just change the company. I don't know anybody from the previous company much, and that's it. And I think this is a mistake. This is a mistake we should eliminate, especially being a freelancers. Okay, you could do it if maybe you are targeting a 9-to-5 job as employment. Hopefully you will be covered till the pension and so. But if you are freelancer, if you build your small business, then relationship matters. And even if they stop paying you, they stop continuing being your customer, it doesn't mean they won't come back. Okay. And I always feel that this is important. This is where I will try to give them attention. This is where I will kind of blink in front of them time to time. And this will help me afterwards to get their attention when I need.
Yeah. It's really like a friendship or a partnership, like you have with your partner or with your friends. And that's a nice thing. I think I really enjoy this way of working. It's quite different. It's not you just have this transaction of I give you my time, you give me my money. There's people like Paula, Andreas, Unique, or Stralos, lots of people I could count now. And it's amazing to see them grow too. Like, for example, there has been a person who has been a marketing manager at a small startup in Salzburg and Vienna. And when we started working together, it was, I think 2010, 15 years. We've done some logos, some small projects, maybe update the websites. And over time, the company has grown. They've done partnerships with Sony, with other companies, or Disney, BlackBerry. We've done a really nice project for BlackBerry. You can hear it's a long time ago when BlackBerry still existed. But yeah, at some point they were acquired by Qualcomm, and now Qualcomm is one of our clients. And I'm super happy to see all of them evolve over time. And I think that's a very important step in that journey, that they can also see they can rely on you. If there is a tough time, they need to deliver something. They might have overestimated the work that needs to be done, or underestimated better for a project, and you have to deliver more time. That's something I'm gladly doing, because I think it's always a back and forth. It's not that you just approach the client and say, I have to charge every hour. That's important. Maybe the project might end, you might earn a bit more money, but then the project is done and there's no partnership. It's just a client agency relationship.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's something like you mentioned. It's amazing. You can see the people grow over time. You build friendships. You share things together. You give back and forth. Yeah, it's a nice way to do work.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I wanted to also turn back to the past, because I think that's kind of reasonable for the people who listen to us. We know that whenever we have a client, we try to do our best to over-deliver, to build relationship, because it's all will pay off. It will compound within years. But what if you yet don't have a client, and somebody wants to ask you to deliver some service so your acquisition channel somehow worked. Maybe somebody recommended, maybe your mom recommended you to your friends, and now they need a website or design or something. And at that moment, you don't know them yet. Okay. So you want to close that deal. You want to have that project in, and so forth. And at that stage, when you still don't know the person, and you want to make this sales discussion, that with the hope that it will be successful to you and you will process with the work. At that moment, the key things that I identified at least are important is to always stand with your values. So you don't try to go down and to agree with everything the customer wants. Because whenever you devolve in this, whenever you devolve from what you like, from how you work, from what the expectation you think you could do, you immediately turn the cooperation into a risk of not winning from both sides. Because they push you down to do something that probably you cannot, for example, or you are not interested in. And you know that they will pay, but you are like, okay, should I do that? Should I go for that? And in my experience, I made these mistakes. I ruined one summer because of this. I took a project for a summer that I shouldn't not. Okay, because it demanded a lot of effort. So I had no holidays, and so even I earned afterwards kind of a bunch of money, and I could then afford to go somewhere for holidays. But I ruined the summer because of this wrong choice. So to repeat, the first step is to make sure you don't go away from your values, but rather believe in this. If this doesn't work out, if you don't close this deal, it won't be your last one. So the idea is to rather work on these acquisition channels on the first step where you spread information about what you do and get more people coming to you. Or maybe you could talk to friends, ask if they need something, what you like to do, what you offer. So more people come to you and you get that winning ball. The winning is the one there where people match what you can do the best. You do websites and they need some corporate website or maybe some small page for their small business. And you do it, that's a match, If they say, okay, on top of that, we also need to run Facebook ads. Can you do it for us? And you are like, what ads? Ads, that's not my niche, not my kind of direction. So don't do what you don't do, but rather include more people into coming to you. And don't be afraid to reject certain projects that feels they won't be win to win.
Very important point. I think this is, I made this mistake very often too. I still sometimes do, that I try to do more work apart from the businesses that we can offer. And in the beginning, of course, you might want to do this, like you have the need or you feel the need to do it. It could become a bigger project. You might be able to do something. But it comes back to what we discussed before, because I think figuring out what you like to do, you can excel so much better at this topic that we discussed before. And I also was kind of afraid, like you jump into freelance work, you don't have a full-time job anymore that supports money. You still have to pay taxes, so you know what's coming the next few months and weeks. So you feel like you need to do this to earn some money. And I think the business side is so often not taught. Like people talk about this, they seem successful from the outside. And then you might also want to try become a freelancer, but you realize it's really tough. Like finding a client, especially now everybody's online, there is a flood of people, like you don't even know where to begin. It's like on Netflix, you want to watch something, but you don't even know what to choose. So it's even harder as a beginner. Those, like you said, compounded over time. You have a lot of competition. It's really not an easy thing. And then finally you get a project, like you mentioned, maybe a recommendation from somebody, and you want to do it. So in that situation, it's probably hard to give advice and say like, okay, maybe don't do it, maybe do it. You probably figure it out for yourself. But I think it's important to say this. It can really derail quickly. And you said it's a whole summer, you probably talk weeks, months, multiple months where you work on something and you don't feel very good. And I think what I learned, just what I can say from my side, is I also spent probably years doing this kind of work, trying to code something where I couldn't do project management, where this has not been my strong suit back then. In that time, I was not able to take other projects. And I think that's an important part for me, because I always felt like if I say no, there is not going to be any more work. People will talk to each other and say like, okay, he's not accepting this project. So I'm speaking as a very early freelancer at the moment, like 15 years ago. But I could see that you could feel this if you do it now. So you probably will try it out and figure out things that you like. Being able to bridge something like you did, communication, you mentioned project management and development, amazing skill set. As we know, sometimes devs don't like to talk so much, just like developers or designers or others. But being able to combine those and combine two different skills is great. But you probably will find out. Maybe sometimes you will struggle. I can tell you I did for multiple years. I still do sometimes if we do projects that we should have not done. We learn. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. But yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you for sharing this. I think it's important to go back to go back in time and see how it was there. Now, 15 years after, we are in different state, right?
Yeah. I always think about you too, like you switched countries, like you really moved. Back then, I guess it was also quite a distance. I don't know if you traveled much before, but it's even some countries in between. You go to another country, there's other people, different culture. You have to find work. How was it for you?
Yeah, difficult. I also took the projects that I afterwards realized that I shan't, and I also worked on many of such things and tried to finish them anyway and turn them as good as possible. But this polished our next step, our next iteration. So it made stronger because you reflected, you realized what was bad previous time, and hopefully you could skip and identify that in the next sales talk with the next project that approached you this way. So for sure, there won't be a case that you will be initially able to identify whether that's a successful deal or no at the beginning, and you will take it, and then within time, while working on the project, you will realize where are the bad parts, where are the good parts, and hopefully you could take this knowledge further for the next project and next conversation with the next client. At least I did throughout the years, and these helped a lot. These fine-tuned and helped me to improve in general communication skills. Because look, sales is not just about freelance to sell your service to something. It's everywhere. It's that might work here at the bank. I need to talk to people. I need to market myself. I need to show what I do, within an organization. So I'm visible, so I'm valuable, because there is this famous statement, at least that I know. We believe that Zuckerberg will call us and buy our startup. But he will never, until you really ask for it, until you become visible, until he really sees you, But many endeavors, they are there. Many technicians lack this skill that they need to communicate, they need to show, and that's a part of the value. Sure, you can deliver, sure, you could build that website, put that code in, design perfectly that wallpaper or whatever. You are good at that, but that's not only thing that defines your value. Communication is a significant part of the value perceived by the other party.
It's so good to hear this from you, like a successful developer, that this is also part of the success. I'm so glad that, thanks to my mom, I did some psychological training before I got into design. And there is so much I appreciate from that training, because you will run into so many situations. And I see that also for small agencies. They might find a way of doing things. So they have like a theory or a certain way of working. Let's say they work human-centered or they work in other ways. And then the new client comes in and you feel like this is how we have to do the project. So you're also like, this is my process that I have to do. But the clients can be from different backgrounds. So they can be very early startups where there is maybe not the finance background to finance this, or there is a big company who has already figured out the project or the product that they do. So I think really understanding your client in the beginning, and that they can also hear that they are heard from you. This is something I really appreciate now that I finally switched the roles, because the last 15 years I've only given services, but never was in the situation to receive one. And I feel like that's something where you feel very welcomed in the beginning. Like our architect has done an amazing job at this, very great onboarding. We've taken a long time to discuss it. We've looked at other places we liked. And I think that's something that's great, because you really understand where your team is. You coach them. When you do coaching, you understand, you try to figure out what's the topics that are important. Where do people want to learn and how they want to learn? And that's all skills that you don't learn in design school or development school, or when you do whatever training you do. And the statement you just made before is great. Like, it's so important to do that. And now it maybe comes naturally. And we've both become people that do have those connections. I might come across sometimes as being a bit naive or like very proactive or nice, which is my character, yes. But of course, that also helps me in some certain ways to deal with stress or deal with pressure in projects. So yeah, it's I think honestly, at least 50% of the job is not only what you do. It's not only development or design.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Totally agree. And yeah, I learned this throughout the years. Yeah, people who don't play that game, well, you're losing. Zuckerberg will never notice how good things you craft, really.
Yeah, there's billions of people, like even machines now who can do the same work. It's a different situation. And I think it's even more than ever, like you go to school, maybe it's tough there to focus or you don't know what to study. it's amazing because you have so many options now. Like I've learned so much the last 2 years about new technologies. The way we work has changed a lot. The way I live personally. I used AI to concept our house. I've started creating a bot where I talk about sustainable materials, where to go,
Yeah.
whom to talk to. Changed so much, but it's challenging. I totally understand this, like especially now seeing this overwhelming amount of opportunities. But the more ever, like figure out what you like to do. We say this so often, but it's so true. And then you will find tools. You will struggle. I can tell, like honestly, tax wise or even finance wise, I've lost a lot, like 2 or 3 times, basically everything I had. But if you try and you figure it out, like you said, what you don't lose is the experience that you gained. It took me not so long to then come back and recover. It's hard. You will go through times it's not easy, but you're able to now. You have the skill. So even if the project doesn't work out, you've at least learned how to not approach a client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I can add here, these just proves that you are passionate, you like what you do. Therefore, how hard the project was before, how big mistake you took to take it. And so you still recover, you still come back. You paid everything in taxes, or you lost your finances, or maybe your friend who promised you something, and you still recover and go farther. And I think this is what makes us alive. And I don't know, in my experience, this freelance career that I pursued throughout the years, it makes me always out of comfort zone so many times. And I feel I enjoy this. I enjoy the process. I enjoy to learn new things, to adopt to them. I feel that I never degrade.
Nice. It's so good to hear this. It makes me very happy to see you or feel about this that way. It's so good. I think, of course, like you said, you have your 9-to-5 job and you do it that way. It's a different way of living, and it's also good for some cases. But I think for you personally, the way you grow as a person, you grow up in a different way. You take responsibility. You can manage to deal with stress. It's great. I think what you just said, I can just agree.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. The last step of this whole system that I wanted to discuss with you, Marius, is this routine, how you deliver. Okay. This obviously changes within time and you improve. But the point in my experience is to make sure that you, within every iteration, within every client, within every mentee that I do, I try to make sure that I improve how I work, that it's both comfortable for myself and for other party. I try to notice what is important for the other party, for them, for the client, for the mentee, and replicate that for the next one, So, and all this comes to many things. In my mentorship business, it comes to make sure that I have exercises prepared and I know how we will go through them together, and then I repeat with every mentee the same thing and fine tune on the way for a next one. It could be the communication, what you do, when you communicate, how you communicate, what you write down, what is important questions to ask, and you repeat that. It could be an email templates that you put in your notebook that you replicate all the time because that's helpful, that it saves your time with the operational stuff of the deal. And I'm sure in agency you have all this set up. I'm just talking from my solo entrepreneurship position that this matters, because if you don't try to polish that to the state where you already do it easy, you won't have a gap as free time to further extend your business, your offer, your service, okay? Because you will be always draining your energy onto making every time something unique, some process unique, So it's better to come up to some routines, to some systematic checklist, how you work with people, and then obviously evolve that within time, within your career, but have it. For me, it helps out. It releases something that, okay, my mentorship business is running. I know how to do it. I can accept a new mentee easily now. And I have time to do something else, to look for new business endeavors, to improve that and that. So I know that these things is polished.
No, yes, I think one of the essences of freelance work really is the craft. I think the crafting is really a good word for this. There was a time when you had like a master in something, or you mastered the task. And why I mentioned this is, I think the first time I had this experience is when I started doing illustrations. Like before in school, I did not really have that experience before.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned it for sports, for example. you really get into a topic. And I did so many illustrations. I think I published like 1 or 2 wallpapers every day, and I did that for like 2 or 3 years. And every time I did a new one, I'm like, okay, I figure out the way I use certain tools in Illustrator or in other programs. You iterate this process again and again and again. You lose yourself in that moment. And that's really a craft. And I think what I did not understand in the beginning, that this happens on several levels for different people. Like when I was a freelancer, I really only did that design work in the beginning. I was glad that I was still studying, so I did not have to make money from it yet. But I was not able to sell it. I did not have the skill or the mastery in selling something or making a business out of it. And in the next step, I realized, okay, well, there's companies who hire designers. Do I want to do that? I've never really signed an employment contract, so I stayed freelance or run this agency now. But then to see, okay, for agencies, it's a craft to be able to run such a big place. And that takes different skills. But I think what he just mentioned is so important, because you can lose yourself so quickly now, like not be focused on something, try to do different skills at a time. But if you notice, maybe you know it from cooking or from doing sports, from maybe watching TV series, you can also understand characters better. But there is a certain moment where you really feel of crafting something. And that, I think, if you find that, that's the first step towards your own freelance business, because that's really what you like to do. And also, once you realize this process of crafting or mastering something, you can apply it then to, like you said, for example, figuring out the way you do your lectures or the way you mentee somebody. And that, I think, is what people do appreciate about me. I cannot tell, but what I see from the outside, something is really serious to me. I need to spend time doing this, and I like to do this. So if we deliver a project, it's crafted. We don't copy paste from others, or we don't do that. Like, we listen to the clients. That's a craft as well, having those conversations, and then be able to execute on it, deliver. Because you can also, like, if it's a hobby of yours, you like to do design, and then you get feedback where this is not functional, or have you really thought through the login process? Yeah. It's not always the same. How is the payment process? And I think that's where it becomes a job, a good job, and you enjoy it. But it's on this level of crafting the experience or the code, whatever it is.
Yeah. For me, the system that is like polished, the craft, as you say, when I have it, it helps at some point to do over delivery without big effort. Because I know what is my standard. This high standard I will execute anyway. I'm already trained to do that. I did this already hundreds of times. Okay? So I can do on top of that because I have energy. I have a routine to do the standard. So on top of that, I could go out of my comfort zone and try something more, you know?
Exactly.
And this is a winner. Now. This is a winner because you have an energy, since you have that routine already set up. You have an energy to put more, to over deliver, to make sure something unique is there, to put your identity into your craft.
Yes, very important. So it's such an important part, because I think those sportsmen you talk about, like Rafael Nadal or others, they do this. And what I think is nice, that's why I come back to the restaurants all the time. There's the series called The Bear. And I think it's quite a nice series to watch, because they show the struggle of the guy who's running the restaurant. You know, he's very good at cooking, exceptionally good. Like, the dishes are amazing. But then you also need to run the restaurant. It costs a lot of money. You need to hire people, work with people. And if you get into this mode, it's amazing, because you really can compound, like you said in the beginning. That what makes a difference. People like that. I like that too. If I go to a place, I love going to restaurants like this.
Awesome. Yeah. We can actually copy this behavior, and we can identify this behavior within restaurants, within famous athletes, and within many successful people, that they have their routines, and therefore they have an energy on top of that to hit some unique ball that will be a mastery in a history afterwards.
Yeah, like in those cases, we aspire those people too. Exactly. Nice.
Great, Marius. Thank you for a conversation today.
Likewise. Thank you, Nick. It's always a pleasure.